Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time of day it is, and whatever day it is. I want to thank you for listening to another episode of AJH Politics. I want to say this is episode 3 for 2026. This is going to be an episode regarding my run for Shawnee County Commissioner District 1. So today is May 2nd, 2026, but this is about the April 30th Shawnee County meeting, which was something of a doozy, also a little bit of a well, at least it was a longer meeting than the last one that I covered. So I will do my best to get through this without rambling. I've got my notes here, not to say that they're perfect in terms of getting all the correct details down. But let's go ahead and let's get started. So the first item up, which was kind of something that was postponed from an earlier meeting, was about vacating a section of Southeast Herschel Road, southeast of 45th. Basically, the county has the authority to vacate a road if they more or less deemed the road to be unvaluable and it's expensive to maintain. So the Halbert Trust speaker, which I think is like some sort of law firm, or no, there was a speaker on behalf of the Halbert Trust. That was the landowner. Basically, there's a landowner at the edge of this road. The road basically just services this guy down at the end who needs the road to get some farming equipment there. Or at least it's easier to use that road to get farming equipment there. Although he has access through another landowner, as well as, I believe, the actual speaker, Bill Rippon, who currently is the District 1 chair, asked, like, can you access this part of your land from your every parcel has to have some access to a road, so from the actual other main road as opposed to having this secondary road. And the guy said yes. At least that's what I remember. But basically, there was some sort of provision plat from, I believe, the 90s about some quarrying going on, and the road was to be reopened once the quarrying was completed. Now, that quarrying isn't going to be completed, like, this goes back to the 90s, and this quarrying could be going on for another 20 or 30 years or something to that effect. And as I was listening to it, it sounded like the landowner had a very legitimate claim, given that there is a plat that says that this road is to be reopened at the end of quarrying, that it felt like kind of like an eminent domain case where, like, the government was like, hey, we need to take away this road for a little bit while we do some quarrying over here, and then we're going to give it back to you. And the quarrying has been, like, so destructive that opening up this road again makes it, like, incredibly expensive. And they also mentioned that it's not a county road, it's a township road. And so there was a lot of really good back and forth stuff. This road has basically become crap. And then they were talking about, teenagers drinking and riding their, like, dirt bikes, and it's dangerous and stuff like that. The whole dangerous argument, here's the thing. They never closed the road also, as I understand it. They're using the road for the quarrying. And they don't have, like, a roadblock up or anything. And so they're worried about these teenagers, driving on this dangerous road that's got, I guess, 200-foot drop-offs or 50-foot drop-offs, whatever it is. Big rocks, it's dangerous, that sort of stuff. And I'm like, well, I don't know if you've ever met a teenager, but putting up a big sign that says, do not drive your dirt bikes here, is a great way to convince teenagers to drive their dirt bikes over there. So putting up a little, you know what I'm talking about, just the big orange blockade thing that anybody can walk around, or certainly drive a dirt bike around when you're out in the middle of nowhere. It's not a viable argument, in my opinion. Now, basically, it did pass that the county is going to vacate that road. And I would agree with them, not on the grounds of the vacation, because there is a plat that says that this road is to be reopened. They do have that on a legal document. But the reason why I would vote to vacate it from a county perspective is because it's not a county road. It is a township road. And as far as I'm concerned, the landowner should be taking it up with the township over there. But yeah, it passed 3-0. The first person was saying based off of safety, which I think is a BS argument. The other person did it based off the definition of vacate. And I think there's definitely a valid argument on the vacate argument, because it's basically a road that's going to cost millions of dollars to repair once the coring is completed in 20 years. And it only serves a section of part of this parcel that this person can already access through their own parcel. Now, granted, right now they were accessing that back part of their parcel through a neighbor, which is already creating personal issues for that landowner. But to me, the argument is based off the fact that it is a township road. I thought it was kind of a really interesting conversation as far as, trying to decide what is truly the correct thing to do there. I think there was a lot of valid and logical arguments from both sides on it. They also had to consent to the agenda, which passed 3-0 in a very, about as quickly as that. There was another thing about just an announcement about voucher payments. Okay, so this was just basically, I guess, the county ratifying, yes, we're going to pay these bills this month or something to that effect, which correlated to $2.8 million, just so we have an idea about how much money we're talking about. $1.4 million went to payroll. Again, I'm not a big fan of government employees, I just wish we could find ways of reducing the spending, and it's not going to happen when you have bills to pay. It's going to happen based off of what policies you start enacting. But it's just, I don't know. These numbers annoy me. 1.4 million on payroll. I think I got 223K on health services. I don't know what the county is doing to pay for health services. That one always annoys me. 178,000 just going to get paid to the state of Kansas. Don't know why we're paying the state of Kansas stuff. There's other stuff on there. I have 799K to some company, basically the 911 call center. Okay, I get that. We want the 911 call center to work correctly. So that makes sense. That passed 3-0. I have written down correction orders past 3-0. Not entirely certain what that was all about. I need to take a break and we'll be back. All right, we are back from our coffee break there. Okay, so then after the correction orders 3-0, we got into a discussion about industrial revenue bonds. So I guess whatever language they have about that is old and from the 90s or something to that effect, as they were saying. An industrial revenue bond is basically a kind of permission slip from the government for if you go off and you build something, you don't have to pay sales tax on the supplies, as well as you can be given anywhere between 0 to 100% off on your property taxes. So there were two things with that. One was the fee of having that. A fourth, and they wanted to, I'm assuming, raise. They didn't clarify what they were at, but what they were going to vote for was a $4,000 filing fee and then a $1,000 annual fee thereafter. These bonds are initiated by, I thought, the IRS. Yeah, and so they're coming from the federal government. And I want to say, did I take the notes on it? I thought that the filing fee raise of that did pass 3-0. How would I have voted on that? I am kind of forgot what I had felt like on that. It's because I really don't like bonds that much. I probably would have voted for it in the sense that if you're going to give somebody a tax break, you got to start making up some of that money. Anyway, the other thing was to basically draw a map where basically the city of Topeka is excluded in terms of the county being able to initiate or give out these IRBs. and then the rest of the county can. And it was kind of argued with the idea of why would we want to regulate this, was one of the council members, and I should write down their names, was basically saying, hey, we shouldn't be regulating this, which initially I was kind of like, okay, yeah, I agree with. The other person was then arguing, I'm like, well, we keep on handing out these things out like they're, free candy on Halloween. I think there should be some regulation on it, which then once you realize what a bond is a bond is basically that person over there doesn't have to pay property taxes for whatever reason because they're somehow helping the county, right? But they're still going to have to collect money from somewhere, which basically means somebody else is going to have to make up for that. So as I was thinking about it, and that vote basically got postponed, and I was thinking about where I would be at with that. And it kind of reminds me as an anecdote of a friend of mine who is a Republican voter, and he has student loans. And I think it was like during the Biden era where like basically he could, file the paperwork and has his student loans forgiven. And I was like, so what are you going to do? And he's like, well, I'm going to file the paperwork. You know what I mean? Like, why would you not? I'm like, yeah. And I was agreeing with him. Like, yeah, no, I don't agree with the whole forgiveness of student loans. But if you can get your student loans forgiven, like you're not saving anything, like with this like moral high ground of like, I'm going to pay off my student loans. Like that's, if the government says you don't have to, if the government wants to pay for your debt, you take the money. And it's not like I fault him on that at all. So basically what I'm thinking is if I could, have my opinion, be the thing, my opinion would be we should not be regulating the IRBs. The IRBs should be allowed to exist anywhere in the county. If the county commissioner can give those out, the county commission should be able to do that regardless of some map. And then as far as what I would do is I am inclined to not give out IRBs. Because to me, drawing the map is probably the worst idea, in the sense that you either have IRBs or you don't have IRBs. Now, I don't want there to be IRBs, but that's not my call. This is coming from the federal government. The federal government is saying, here's money, spend it however you want. I would like to spend the money by not having it taxed in the first place. But it's one of those things where I try to think about my political philosophy of libertarianism and how to apply it in that situation. It's definitely kind of a damned if you do and damned if you don't sort of situation. Kind of like the first thing about that road. It's like, do you believe in eminent domain, or do you believe that it's not the county's responsibility to maintain one incredibly expensive road for some farmer so that he has access to the back lot? It's a little bit of an easier drive for him on his tractor, it's very difficult. So anyway, let's kind of keep moving through the meeting. We'll probably get to discuss more of those IRBs later on. So anyway, the another thing was, I believe from the Parks and Rec guy was asking for some money. Now, one of it was for the gym floor in the Central Park. I take it this is like the basketball floor needs to get like resanded and re-waxed or whatever like that. Not really a big fan of any sort of spending, but as they were discussing, apparently the ceiling was leaking. And so now we've got all this water damage. And now that the ceiling has been fixed, we got to fix the floor. And it did pass 3-0. And I would probably go ahead and agree with that. Let's, this is something that more or less is a part of the community, and it's been damaged and it needs to get fixed. So let's take care of that. The other thing was an RFQ, I thought, or RFP. It was about the Cypress Ridge Golf Club, about building a new clubhouse, of which they were saying most, whatever that word means as far as an actual quantitative percentage. But most of the funds for the new clubhouse are privately funded, but there will be some tax dollars spent on it. And I don't know about this golf club, if it is a public golf club or if it is a private golf club. A question that was not asked was what's wrong with the old clubhouse? Like, why do they need a new clubhouse? Like the basketball floor, they needed a new basketball floor. Like that was just, I guess, at least is how I understood the conversation. Whereas this was more of like a, hey, we want a new golf house and we've raised, let's just say 90%. I'm making up a number, but let's just say they raised 90% of the money. Okay, great, but I don't understand how that's really a benefit to the overall county at large. Um, so this was just a request to. It basically was costing $0. It was just sounded like it was just getting permission to do the research to find out how much it actually will cost, because there's going to be a new drive, a new parking lot. The old clubhouse is going to have to get demoed or refurbished into the maintenance shed, and then what's going to have to happen to the old maintenance shed, and blah 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 blah. I don't. What's weird is like, as far as getting permission to get this number, like, is it this because there's like, these admin bureaucrats in the background? They're like, okay, well, we need to give them some work in, July. Let's have them do this job where we're gonna use our admin money to pay these people to research how much this project costs. This is kind of what it sounded like, which, again, as someone who's already not in favor of this project, I mean, like, if they raise the funds privately, by all means do it. But I don't want to spend a penny on this for a new clubhouse when I have, at least while I am ignorant of what is wrong with the old clubhouse. That's the biggest hang up for me right there. Then I have an RFQ on call property appraisal and acquisition. So this is something about, like, I guess, getting a third party consultant to go out to, there was some stretch of road with a bunch of new plats on it that they need to appraise or something to that effect. It passed 3-0. They're saying that they can't do their job and they need more money for more people to go out there and figure out what these property taxes need to be. And it's just, more government. As far as my opinion on it, I hadn't really thought this one through. I have to really, like, why can't they just, I don't understand the process of, you've got these employees who's basically their job is to do what they're supposed to be doing, and now we're hiring out even more people to do the job. And that might make sense. It's just, they're like, it's kind of like, if you have two workers at the restaurant making burgers, and one person's in the front taking the order or the orders, and the other person's in the back, but if you have, it depends on how many customers come in the restaurant, right? You might need 2 people in the front and 3 people in the back. So it's just like, I don't understand necessarily what is an appropriate amount of work per employee for things to get done. But yeah, it passed 3-0. No public comments. There was some admin time where they introduced the new person who's in charge of the Stormont Vale Center, who is also the person who is in charge of these renovations that are going on at the Kansas University football stadium, which is I've been pretty PG, by the way, but it is a cluster, so to speak. So I'm just saying, based off of what I know about the KU renovations at football stadium, it's a little bit of a negative first impression. But really, they were just talking about some of the events they've got coming to the event center and how that's good for the county. The last bullet point was, let's see here, the county corrections person was talking about County Correction Officers Week in the park. There's some sort of picnic, which is privately funded, so that's fine. There's also a Shawnee County admin employees or whatever bureaucracy appreciation picnic night, which I mean, I get it. That's nice in terms of employees should be appreciated, both in the private and public sector. Like I mean, having worked at private companies and and I've also been a public employee. You have your little appreciation week, your night of bowling or whatever. It's a nice thing to do. I get it. Um, I just so I they didn't mention how that was getting funded, and I think it's pretty cool. Of at least the corrections officers have raised the money themselves for their barbecue, whereas the bureaucratic employees, I don't know where this money is coming from. It was never mentioned, which was also the last basically item of the meeting before they adjourned for executive session, which I guess is private or something, or at least it's not on the YouTube channel. So, with that being said, if you have any questions or comments about my opinions, if you want to explain to me how they're wrong, especially from a libertarian standpoint, I'd love to have any sort of likes and comments that can help this spread out and help this campaign go, because that's basically how my campaign is going to be. Is it's going to be these YouTube videos. So without further ado, I'm just going to sign off and say peace out.